The Rogue's Gambit. The emergency klaxons of the Meridian Station pierced the artificial atmosphere as Commander Zara Thorne pressed her back against the cold metal bulkhead, plasma rifle clutched in her trembling hands. Her regulation uniform was torn, singed from what appeared to be a desperate firefight, and crimson streaks of her own blood traced down her left temple. To any observer, she looked like exactly what she was supposed to be. A human officer who had finally snapped under the weight of an endless war. There. Lieutenant Finn's voice echoed through the abandoned corridor, his boots clanging against the deck plating. She went this way. Zara's breath came in carefully measured gasps as she calculated her next move. 3 years of deep cover operations had taught her that the most convincing lies were built on fragments of truth. The exhaustion in her voice would be real because she was exhausted. The desperation in her eyes would be authentic because part of her genuinely questioned what they were all fighting for. She rounded the corner and nearly collided with her target. Prince Kalen Voss stood 7 feet tall, his crystalline blue skin catching the emergency lighting like fractured starlight. The Valari's forearms were bound behind his back with energy shackles, but his golden eyes, so different from the silver of his warrior caste, held no fear. Instead, there was something that made Zara's chest tighten unexpectedly. Resignation, mixed with profound sadness. "You're the defector," he said, his voice carrying the musical quality that made Valari's speech sound like whispered poetry. I heard the commotion. Zara glanced back toward the approaching footsteps, then at the maintenance shaft beside them. This was it. The moment months of preparation had led to. Admiral Cross's briefing echoed in her mind. The Prince carries neural implants containing the location of Zirion Base, their most advanced weapons facility. Get close to him, earn his trust, extract the information by any means necessary. And you're my ticket out of here, she replied, raising her weapon toward him before deliberately lowering it. But I'm not like them. I won't drag you back in, chains to be tortured for information. Kalen's golden eyes studied her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. For a moment, she wondered if he could somehow see through her deception, if the Valari possessed some innate ability to detect lies. But then his expression softened. Why? He asked simply. Because I've seen what we do to prisoners, Zara said, and this time the tremor in her voice was entirely genuine. I've seen the interrogation chambers, the neural extractors. I won't be part of that anymore. The sound of Finn's patrol grew closer. Zara made her decision, pulling out her plasma cutter and slicing through Kalen's energy shackles in 3 quick motions. The Valari Prince flexed his forearms, each movement graceful despite his obvious exhaustion. The maintenance shaft, she whispered urgently. It leads to the docking bay. There's a courier ship there, unmarked. Can you pilot Valari craft? I can pilot anything that flies, Kalen replied, but his gaze remained fixed on her face. This could be a trap. It could be, Zara admitted, but we're both dead if we stay here. Sometimes you have to choose between probable death and certain death. For 3 heartbeats they stared at each other across the vast gulf of species and war. Then Kalen nodded once, sharply, and squeezed his tall frame into the maintenance shaft. Zara followed, sealing the entrance behind them just as Finn's patrol rounded the corner. 20 minutes later they were in space aboard the Whisper, a nondescript transport that Admiral Cross had assured her would be untraceable. Kalen sat in the pilot's seat, his 4 hands dancing across the controls with practiced precision, while Zara monitored the communications array for pursuit. Where are we going? Kalen asked as he engaged the hyperdrive. Nowhere, Zara replied. The neutral zone between sectors 7 and 9, ghost territory. Both our fleets avoid it because of the radiation storms. A fitting place for 2 ghosts, Kalen murmured. As the stars stretched into lines and hyperspace embraced them, Zara felt the weight of her deception settle on her shoulders like a lead cloak. The microtransmitter she'd planted in the ship's navigation system was already sending their location to Admiral Cross. Within 72 hours, a human strike force would intercept them. Her mission would be complete. She glanced at Kalen, who was adjusting the environmental controls with the methodical care of someone accustomed to long journeys. His profile was sharp, alien, but there was something deeply familiar about the way he moved, careful, controlled, like someone carrying an enormous burden. "What did they want from you?" she asked, settling into the co-pilot's seat. "The same thing your people always want," Kalen replied without looking at her. "Information about our defenses, our weaknesses, the location of our research facilities, and, do you have that information?" Now he did look at her, and she saw something flicker in those golden eyes. Amusement, perhaps, or something sadder. "I have many things, Commander Thorne. Information, secrets, regrets." He paused. "What I don't have is any reason to trust you." "But you're here," Zara pointed out. "I'm here because the alternative was a neural extractor and a slow death. That doesn't mean I trust you. It means I'm pragmatic." Despite herself, Zara found herself almost smiling. Fair enough. The next 3 days fell into an unexpected rhythm. They jumped from system to system, staying ahead of both human and Valari. Patrols while making their way deeper into the abandoned sectors that had been devastated in the war's early years. Kalen proved to be an excellent pilot and surprisingly good company. He spoke 7 languages, had studied human philosophy, and possessed a dry wit that caught her off guard. On the second night, as they drifted in the shadow of a shattered moon, he asked her about Earth. "I've never seen it," Zara admitted, checking the scanner readings for the 5th time in an hour. "Born on Kepler Station, raised on military vessels, Earth is just an idea to me. Blue skies and green grass and oceans without end. I dream of seeing it someday," Kalen said quietly. "When this war ends." "You think it will end?" "Everything ends, Commander. Even wars. Even hatred." He gestured toward the stars visible through the viewport. "My people used to be explorers, you know. Before we met humanity, we spent centuries mapping the galaxy, cataloging new species, learning from them. War has made us forget who we were." Zara felt something twist in her chest, guilt, perhaps, or recognition. "We weren't always soldiers either. Humans used to dream of the stars as a place of infinite possibility. Now we see them as territory to claim or enemies to defeat." "Perhaps that's what we're both fighting for," Kalen said. "The chance to remember who we used to be." On the 3rd day, as they approached the wreckage fields, a graveyard of destroyed ships from both fleets, Zara's communicator chimed with an encrypted message. Admiral Cross's face appeared on the small screen, his weathered features set in grim satisfaction. "Thorne, you've done excellent work. Strike Team Delta is 12 hours out. Maintain your position and prepare for extraction. The Prince is not to be harmed until we've retrieved the intelligence. Cross out." Zara stared at the blank screen, her hands trembling slightly. 12 hours. In 12 hours, Kalen would discover the truth about her, about their journey, about everything he'd shared with her in quiet moments between the stars. She looked toward the cockpit where Kalen was humming something that sounded like a lullaby while he plotted their next jump. 3 days ago, he had been a target, a mission, objective, nothing more than a means to an end. Now she found herself wondering if Admiral Cross was wrong about the neural implants, if the intelligence they sought even existed, if the weapon that could end the war was worth the trust she was about to shatter. "Commander?" Kalen's voice pulled her from her thoughts. "Are you well? You look pale." "Just tired," she lied, forcing a smile. "It's been a long few days." "Indeed it has." Kalen's golden eyes studied her with that same intensity she'd noticed on the station. "But we're safe now. Tomorrow we reach the havens, the refugee settlements where neither fleet ventures. We can rest there while we decide our next course." Zara nodded, not trusting her voice. "Tomorrow." In 12 hours, Strike Team Delta would arrive, and Prince Kalen Voss would learn that his newest ally had been his enemy all along. As she settled into her bunk that night, listening to the Whisper's engines humming through hyperspace, Zara found herself staring at the ceiling and wondering when exactly the mission had become personal. When she'd stopped seeing Kalen as a target and started seeing him as... what? A friend? Something more? It didn't matter now. In a few hours, Admiral Cross would have his intelligence, the war would shift in humanity's favor, and Commander Zara Thorne would have successfully completed another deep cover operation. The only question was why that felt so much like failure. The mirror breaks. The emergency beacon pierced through hyperspace like a needle through silk, its shrill tone dragging Zara from restless sleep. She bolted upright in her bunk, heart hammering, as the ship's automated systems announced what she already knew. They were being hailed by a human vessel. Strike Team Delta had arrived early. Commander Thorne, report to the bridge immediately. Admiral Cross's voice crackled through the comm system, cold and authoritative even across the vast emptiness of space. Prepare Prince Kalen for extraction. Zara's hands shook as she pulled on her uniform, the weight of the past 3 days pressing down on her like the gravity of a collapsing star. Through the thin bulkhead, she could hear Kalen moving in the cockpit, his forearms working the controls with the fluid precision she'd come to admire. She found him studying the sensor displays, his crystalline blue features bathed in the amber glow of the navigation console. He didn't look up when she entered. "Your friends have found us," he said quietly, his musical voice carrying none of the surprise she'd expected. 12 ships, military configuration. They've been tracking us since we left Meridian Station. Zara's breath caught. Kalen, Commander Zara Thorne, service number 7749 Delta, assigned to Deep Intelligence Division under Admiral Marcus Cross. Kalen finally turned to face her, and his golden eyes held no anger, no betrayal, only a profound sadness that cut deeper than any accusation. Decorated for valor at the Battle of Zarian Prime, specialist in long-term infiltration and psychological manipulation. The words hit her like physical blows. "How long have you known?" "Since the second day." Kalen's lower set of arms gestured to a small device hidden beneath the navigation panel. "Valari neural implants aren't just for storing information, Commander. They're for detecting deception. Every lie you told, every fabricated emotion, every moment you pretended to see me as something other than a target. I felt it all." Zara sank into the co-pilot's chair, the weight of her failure crushing. "Then why didn't you—" "Because you weren't the only one playing a game," Kalen interrupted, his voice carrying a note she'd never heard before, something almost like amusement. "Tell me, Commander, what do you know about the Syndicate?" Before Zara could respond, the comm system crackled to life again. Admiral Cross's face filled the main screen, his weathered features set in grim satisfaction. Behind him, she could see the bridge of the Retribution, the flagship of Strike Team Delta. "Prince Kalen," Cross said, his voice dripping with false courtesy. "By the authority of the Terran Defense Coalition, you are under arrest for crimes against humanity. Surrender now, and I guarantee you'll be treated according to the Geneva Protocols." Kalen laughed, a sound like crystal chimes in a gentle breeze. "Admiral Cross, still making promises you have no intention of keeping, I see. How is Project Mindbridge progressing?" Cross's expression flickered with something that might have been surprise. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Of course, you don't," Kalen replied smoothly. "Just as you didn't know about the neural extractors on Titan base, or the civilian colonies your forces accidentally targeted last month, or the weapons deals with the Krell Mercenary Union." Zara stared at Kalen in shock. The Krell were barely sentient raiders who sold their services to the highest bidder. If humanity was dealing with them. "You're lying," Cross snarled, but Zara caught the micro-expression that flickered across his face, the slight tightening around his eyes that meant he was calculating damage control. "Am I?" Kalen touched a control, and the ship's communication array suddenly blazed to life. "Perhaps you'd like to explain that to the 17 different news networks that are now receiving a very interesting data packet, along with the Valari High Council and the Neutral Zone Authority, and most importantly the Syndicate." Cross's face went white. "Impossible. Our communications are encrypted by Syndicate algorithms," Kalen finished. "Fascinating how that works, isn't it? When the same shadow organization that's been selling weapons to both sides also controls your military encryption protocols?" The puzzle pieces clicked into place in Zara's mind, with sickening clarity. The war that had raged for 15 years, the endless stalemate despite superior technology on both sides, the mysterious attacks that always seemed to escalate just when peace talks began. The Syndicate has been manipulating both fleets, she whispered. Not just manipulating, Kalen corrected, controlling. Every major battle, every diplomatic failure, every terrorist attack that derailed peace negotiations, all orchestrated by a shadow network that profits from perpetual war. Cross's image flickered as the retribution moved closer, weapons powering up. Enough games. Surrender the Prince Thorn, or we'll take him by force. I'm afraid that won't be possible, a new voice said, and Zara's blood froze as General Nyx materialized on the screen, 7 feet of scarred Valari warrior, her forearms crossed in a gesture of absolute authority. Behind her, the bridge of a Valari dreadnought stretched away into shadows. This is Terran space, Cross began. This is neutral territory, Nyx cut him off, her silver eyes blazing with cold fire. And Prince Kalen is under my protection, as is Commander Thorn, who has just become a very valuable asset to both our species. Zara felt the universe shift around her. What's happening? Evolution, Kalen said softly. General Nyx commands the Valari resistance, those of us who discovered the truth about the Syndicate's manipulation. Your Admiral Cross leads a similar faction among humans. They've been working together for months preparing for this moment. The data Prince Kalen just transmitted, Nyx continued, her image splitting the screen with crosses, contains financial, records, communication logs, and operational plans spanning 20 years. Every Syndicate cell, every corrupt official, every weapons deal that kept this war burning. Cross's expression had shifted from anger to grim determination. The Senate will never believe it. Too many of them are on the Syndicate payroll. They will when they see the evidence, Kalen replied. And when they realize that the Krell fleet currently massing at the edge of Terran space isn't there to attack Valari colonies, it's there to ensure that humans and Valari destroy each other, completely, leaving the galaxy open for Syndicate colonization. The comm system erupted with incoming signals, dozens of ships dropping out of hyperspace around them. But instead of the chaotic battle Zara expected, she watched in amazement as human and Valari vessels took up defensive positions together, their weapons trained outward toward the approaching Krell armada. How long have you been planning this? Zara asked, her voice barely a whisper. From the moment I was captured on Meridian Station, Kalen replied. The Syndicate needed me silenced because I discovered their network within the Valari government, but they also needed to ensure that any human extraction attempt would fail spectacularly, giving them an excuse to escalate the war. So they arranged for your rescue by a deep cover operative who was secretly working for them, Zara said, the final pieces clicking into place. Except Admiral Cross isn't actually Syndicate, Kalen confirmed. He's been playing a deeper game, using their own network against them, just as General Nyx has been doing within Valari Command. The tactical display lit up with dozens of new contacts, the Krell fleet emerging from the edge of the system, their massive dreadnoughts bristling with weapons that could crack planets. At their center, a ship unlike anything Zara had ever seen, sleek, predatory, built from technology that seemed to bend light around itself. The Syndicate command vessel. Nyx's voice carried a note of grim satisfaction. They've finally shown themselves. All ships, this is Admiral Cross. The Admiral's voice carried across the combined fleet's communication network. Today we end, not just a war, but the manipulation that created it. Today humanity and the Valari stand together against the true enemy. As the two fleets, former enemies now fighting side by side, accelerated toward the Krell armada, Kalen turned to Zara with something that might have been an apology in his golden eyes. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you the truth sooner, he said, but your reactions had to be genuine. The Syndicate has neural scanners too, and if you'd known, they would have detected it, Zara finished. I understand. But Kalen, the neural implants you supposedly carry, the weapon coordinates, Cross wanted. Oh, those are quite real. Kalen smiled, and for the first time since she'd met him, it was a predator's smile. But they don't contain the location of a Valari weapon. They contain the complete structural plans for the Syndicate command ship, including its shield frequencies and weapon vulnerabilities, information I've been gathering for 3 years. Through the viewport, Zara watched as the combined human-Valari fleet engaged the Krell Armada in a battle that lit up the darkness between stars. But her attention was fixed on the impossible. Prince Kalen Voss, sitting beside her with his 4 hands dancing across the controls, transmitting targeting data to ships that had been trying to kill each other just hours before. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we find out whether peace is stronger than the lies that kept us at war," Kalen replied, "and whether 2 species who've spent 15 years learning to hate each other can remember how to trust." The battle raged for 6 hours. When it ended, the Syndicate command ship was debris scattered across 3 light minutes of space, and the surviving Krell vessels were fleeing into the depths of uncharted space. But more importantly, human and Valari crews were sharing rescue operations, working together to save lives regardless of species. 3 months later, Zara stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, the first joint human-Valari facility ever constructed, watching the sunset paint Europa's icy surface in shades of gold and amber. Beside her, Kalen was reviewing the preliminary peace accords, his golden eyes reflecting the same colors that danced across the moon's ancient ice. "Any regrets?" she asked. "About which part?" Kalen replied. "Deceiving you? Ending a war? Or discovering that the enemy of my enemy isn't always my friend? About trusting me, even after you knew I was lying to you?" Kalen set down the tablet and looked at her with that same intensity she remembered from their first meeting. "Commander, Zara, I told you that Valari neural implants detect deception. What I didn't tell you is that they also detect something else." "What?" "The moment when deception becomes truth. When someone stops pretending to care and actually does care." He smiled, and this time it held no shadows, no hidden games. That happened on the second day as well. Zara felt her breath catch. "Kalen, the war is over," he said simply. "The Syndicate is broken. Both our peoples are learning to build something better than what we destroyed. Perhaps it's time we stopped being Commander Thorn and Prince Kalen and started being simply Zara and Kalen." Through the viewport, the first stars of evening began to appear, no longer markers of territory to be claimed or enemies to be fought, but infinite points of possibility in a galaxy finally at peace. "I'd like that," Zara said, and for the first time in 15 years she meant every word.